Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to the MyLegal.com Talk Radio Show for Wednesday, September 1, 2010. We get together regularly to bring news and information of interest to the legal community. I'm Kathy DiLorenzo, your host, coming to you live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And with me today is my colleague and co-host, Lisa DeMonte, who is in Washington, D.C. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, Kathy. How are you today?
I'm doing great today. Thank you. We have a great show for you today entitled Finding Hidden Treasures in Tax Returns and How It Affects the Divorce Process. We're going to be talking with Mark Gottlieb. Mark is an accomplished forensic accounting and business valuation specialist with expertise in record reconstruction and litigation support. Mark is renowned for the meticulous preparation and comprehensive research he brings to all of his professional engagements. Mark is also frequently appointed by many distinguished judges of the state of New York to provide these services and provide expert testimony. Managing the Business Valuation and Litigation Support Group at MSG, Mark Gottlieb leads his team of highly qualified professionals in conducting forensic accounting examinations, independent business and professional practice valuations, calculations of enhanced earnings capacity relating to professional licenses and degrees, and a continuum of financial and economic analysis. MSG has offices in Great Neck, New York, Stamford, Connecticut, and Roseland, New Jersey. Mark, welcome to our show, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We're happy to have you. Mark, to get us started on this topic, what are the litigants' obligations in terms of representing their finances in a divorce proceeding?
Well, very often when a divorce starts, there's certain representations that have to be made by each of the parties. The financial-related components to that representation normally include a list of their assets, their liabilities, and a representation of their income, what they're earning. In New York, we call that a net worth statement. In other states, like in Connecticut, we call it a financial affidavit. But basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to get a handle on what the net worth of each party has. And so that is normally one of the first things that is prepared when a divorce commences. Again, the financial related documents.
Okay. Well, Mark, what are some of the red flags that provoke the need to look past the face of the tax returns?
Well, very often we're hired by the attorney of one or both of the litigants to help them analyze and evaluate the integrity and completeness of this financial information that's being presented. And when we do that, we compare their financial representations to actual bank statements and tax returns and transactions with the bank statements. And so this whole concept of what we've called in our office finding the hidden treasures comes out of the exercise of looking at these documents and trying to determine their completeness and accuracy. And so, this exercise, although very time-consuming and very labor-intensive, will give the attorney the ability and the confidence to know that the documents that they've been provided with are truthful and can be used to really analyze the marital estate. There are many components to getting divorced. One of the ways that I feel that I'm lucky, because as a forensic accountant, I only have to deal with the financial components. And so, the lawyer has the big picture to worry about, and our job as forensic accountants in a divorce setting is to try to determine if the financial information is complete and then go from there. Often we'll find a lifestyle that may not be known to one of the parties. We recently had a case in which we actually were looking at the tax returns, and I don't know if you're familiar with your tax return, but on a tax return there, the interest that's earned on a tax return is identified on a bank account basis. So there were 10 accounts. The wife only knew of 8 accounts. And when we searched out to find out what were the sources of these other accounts that were not known previously, we actually found that one of the accounts, although a very small interest income was being earned, was a rent security deposit account. And the husband had, in fact, rented an apartment and had given a deposit and generated income, interest income from that deposit. And that one item opened up the whole Pandora's box, because from that item we were able to develop a clear understanding of the husband's lifestyle. And it involved supporting another woman, maintaining another residence, some other habits in regards to taking money out of the bank. So, it's not necessarily something that slaps you across your face and awakens you from a deep sleep, but there are these nuances of these documents that allow us to identify things.
Mark, let me jump back for just a second. I heard you mention in answer to the previous question that you're hired by one or both of the parties. Are you able to, pardon me, are you able to conduct this examination on behalf of both parties without concern for conflict of interest?
Certainly. In many instances, we're hired by one of the litigants. In some instances, we're hired by both as a neutral expert, and in some instances, we're even hired as a court-appointed expert. So, unlike an attorney, in which they are always an advocate for their client for good, bad, or indifferent reasons, our job is not like that. We're not an advocate for the client. We're an advocate for the information and an advocate for the process that we employ to examine the financial components of the case. Our income is not dependent upon if we do or don't find something, or if the client is happy or unhappy with our result. Our goal is to identify the components of the financial components of the situation and present it and let the lawyers and the court deal with it.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make that clarification. Mark, what are some of the documents that are required for you to begin and pursue this forensic effort?
Okay, well, the first thing is to analyze the representation of the marital asset. And normally that includes either a financial affidavit or a net worth statement. It identifies all the bank accounts, all the assets, all the businesses that may be owned. It identifies the liabilities. And the difference between those two gross totals, the assets minus the liabilities, is the party's net worth. In addition, we look at both personal and business tax returns. And when you look at all of these documents in totality, we look to identify certain issues that may require further due diligence. Sometimes we're provided with bank statements, sometimes we're not. If we're not provided with bank statements, we may request these bank statements or brokerage statements. And so it really depends upon what we find and what we are asked to do. But we start with the initial documents. We start with those items that are represented in the initial commencement of the divorce.
Okay, and are these practices and these required documents or any of the rules, are they standard across the country or do they vary by state?
Well, they vary somewhat by state, and they call them different names, the actual form. But in general, everybody has to pony up their information when they get divorced, whether they're the plaintiff or the defendant. When you're called to the divorce table, you have to make certain representations, and so this information has to be presented in one form or another. The form does differ slightly, but the concept is the same.
Okay, well, Mark, this whole effort, to uncover or to evaluate the financial standing of either of the parties, is it made in conjunction with the attorney's discovery efforts, or is it taken on behalf of the litigant?
Almost all of the time, we're hired by the attorney. The attorney is the captain of the ship in regards to the divorce proceeding. The attorney has the big picture at hand, and so the attorney has an understanding and a wherewithal of knowing when the forensic accountant needs to get involved. There are certain occasions when a litigant will hire us directly, but we see more often than not when there is a litigant acting what they call pro se, which means representing themselves, it's because they don't have the financial resources to hire professionals like lawyers and accountants. So if an individual doesn't have the resources to hire a lawyer, chances are they're not going to have the resources to hire an accountant. So almost all the time we're hired by the attorney. That being said, we do get inquiries directly from litigants because he or she may think that there's something going on with the financial situation of their marriage. And when they do look to hire us, the first thing we say is, well, we'd like to speak with your attorney to make sure he or she is on board and that they think that this effort is useful. So, again, the more substantial cases in which forensic accountants are required generally includes the retaining of an attorney for the case.
Okay. Mark, you mentioned the case earlier of the husband who was using marital assets to support a girlfriend, but what are some of the more common things that you find from this exercise?
Well, in essence, if there was one answer I'd have to give, I'd have to say lifestyle. There are, nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I want to get divorced today. They plan it, they think about it, they dream about it, they fantasize about it, whether it be 2 weeks before they actually get divorced or 2 years before. And so what happens is that there are often patterns that are developed during this process, even prior to the divorce, for good, bad, or indifferent reasons. The lifestyle of the litigants, the family, the couple, is normally one of the issues that has to be addressed in a divorce proceeding, because there are issues in regards to child support, there are issues that are in regards to alimony and maintenance, there are issues in regards to equitable distribution of assets, and so all these financial items are evaluated so that a equitable distribution, if you're an equitable distribution state, can be determined. The lifestyle, as I said before, is very, very significant because if one of the parties actually has a closely held business, it is common that we see that certain expenses that you and I would consider to be ordinary personal expenses of the family or the couple may in fact be either paid and or deducted as a business expense on the corporate tax return. And so in many instances, we may be required to analyze those transactions from not only their personal accounts, but also the business accounts in order to capture what the true expenses of the business of the couple are. Some examples to this would be entertainment expenses. When people go out for dinner, maybe one of the business owner's spouse would use his or her corporate or business credit card, or maybe when they go traveling on vacation, they'll deduct it as a business expense, or if they pay college tuition or camp fees, they'll pay it, from the business. And so we need to cast a wide net to try to capture all these expenses and all these items.